Welcome to Dash Explore. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be sharing our 9 tips for traveling with babies and kids. Now, we are not experts by any means, but we have been on a decent number of flights with our kids. We have flown domestically 3 times with Haley, all before she was 2 years old, I believe, and we have flown 3 times internationally with both girls. Delaney has only flown on long-haul international flights, so we have logged a lot of miles on planes, and this is what we have learned from our experiences, and I hope that these tips will help you and your family go into your next family trip. So let's go ahead and get things started, and my first tip, and by far the most important, is that you will get off the plane. Now, this is a tip that we had heard before ever flying with our kids from Iz and Johnny Harris, who are big time YouTubers and family travelers. And one of their tips for flying with kids is that that plane ride is not going to last forever. You just have to get yourself through that short period of time, even though it might feel like forever, and you will end up in an amazing destination. Now, I have definitely had people sitting around us make comments about our kids when they weren't falling asleep or just taking some time to get comfortable, about how they couldn't believe we were flying with our kids. And all I could think about in those moments was all of the memories that we had just made with our family as we were flying back home. And it is worth every single second for me to sit with my child crying for 5, 10, 15 minutes, just trying to get comfortable, trying to get themselves to sleep, for all of the stuff that we have gotten to do with our kids. And along these same lines, I also want you to remember that people are entitled to not have kids or to not travel with their kids if they don't want to, but that doesn't mean that they are entitled to be on a plane without children at all. So you want to travel with your kids, you want to get out there and see the world, and that is amazing. Do not let the people around you get in your head or say things that are rude, because you're about to take your kids on an incredible family adventure, and every bit of that is worth it for you. So remember, you are going to get off that plane. It is not going to last forever. There might be a little bit of discomfort, but you will make it through and you will have an awesome time on your trip. All right, my next tip for traveling with babies and kids is to prepare your kids ahead of time. Now, obviously, this is not something you are going to do quite as much with babies, but around a certain age, 2, 3 plus, your kids are going to start to understand what an airplane is. They see them in the sky all the time, and you read books about them, and just talking to them about how you're going to go on an airplane, you'll probably bring snacks or games, and if you are doing any kind of like long haul, overnight, international type flying, you get to sleep on the plane. Just prepare them for these things, because from all of our travel experiences, we have found that the more we prepare our kids and tell them exactly what is going to happen, the more comfortable they feel when those things arrive, and the trip goes so much more smoothly. So whether that's watching YouTube videos about people and kids flying on planes or reading books, just do something to help prepare your kids so that they know what to expect when they get on that plane. All right, my tip number 3 for flying with babies and kids is to give yourself plenty of time when getting to the airport. Now, this should kind of be a given. We know the rule of get there 2-3 hours before your flight. You got to get through security. You got to do all of the things. But especially for little kids, airports are really cool. There are planes. There are sometimes playgrounds. There are restaurants. There's just all kinds of stuff that you don't really experience in day-to-day life. And there can be a lot to do at the airport before your plane takes off. Take your kids on walks, have them look and see all the different things that are inside the airport, plus burn off some energy before they get on that plane. And like I mentioned, if there is any kind of playground, make sure you take a pit stop there, let your kids climb around, get some energy out. It can make a huge difference when getting on those flights. It's also really important to make sure you get to your gate with plenty of time before your flight leaves, because especially these days when sometimes you have to pay for seats to be all together and there's just all kinds of things that they can charge you for, it can be really important to make sure you get there, make sure all of your family is sitting together. If you have anything that you need to check at the gate, like a car seat or a pack and play or stroller or any of that baby essentials, make sure you get there with plenty of time so you can talk to the gate agents and get everything all situated for your family so that everything goes as smoothly as possible. All right, tip number 4 for flying with babies and kids is to weigh the pros and cons of the bassinet row. Now, a lot of times flights will just go ahead and put all families in the bassinet rows, especially if they see that you have a lap child. And there are some definite benefits to sitting in the bassinet row, but there's also a lot of cons as well. And I will briefly go through those really quick. But if you have a baby who is 6 months, 8 months or less, I'm sure the bassinet row is wonderful. You have this place to put your baby that sleeps a lot more often than a lot of older kids. It is a safe place for them. They're not just sitting in your lap, and it can be a really easy option for you if you have a small kid. Another pro of sitting in the bassinet row is that if you have a toddler who is still a lap infant, but they're not quite at that 2-year-old mark, but they are rather large, it can be nice to have that open space in front of you, because there is a little bit more leg room there to have your kid stand up, stretch their legs, especially if it is a super long flight and you're not just crammed with a seat directly in front of you. So that is another time to consider where the bassinet row might be worth it. Now, some downsides to the bassinet row: if your kid is above that 6 to 8 month range, like Delaney was when she went on her first international flight, she was 11 months old. She was way too big for the bassinet, and we tried to lay her down in there, but she just thought it was a game and kept popping her head out, and that just ended up not being the move for us. Fortunately, we were on a very empty flight and we were able to bring our car seat onto the plane, and we put her in her car seat, and that was wonderful. But for those older babies, the bassinet might not always be the best option. Something else to keep in mind when doing the bassinet row is, again, if you're doing an overnight flight and sleeping on the plane and you have older children, like we had Haley, who was 3.5 at a time, the bassinet row seats armrests do not come up, so they cannot lift the armrests up to rest on you. They have to be confined in their seat space, so keep that in mind as well. And the third downside that we have found to sitting in the bassinet row is that there is no underseat storage for your carry-ons. So all of your carry-ons, everything you brought has to be in the overhead bins. So when your kid wants a snack, or you want to get their water bottle, or you need to get their tablet or their stuffy, you got to get up and down every single time you need to get anything. And if it's a really long flight, that can get old really quick. So those are just the few pros and cons that we have found from sitting in the bassinet row. Weigh those options for yourself, do some research on your own, and it is something that you just have to make a choice on for yourself. All right, my next tip for flying with babies and toddlers is entertainment. And the biggest thing here is to be prepared. Now, again, I'm speaking mostly from someone who has done long international flights, 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. So we always make sure that we come prepared with games and toys, things like sticker books, coloring books, like any kind of magnetic toys like magnet tiles or magnetic cubes. Those types of toys are also great for planes. But the one thing that has been consistently the best option for us when it comes to flying with our kids is to bring a tablet. And I know that that seems kind of like the easy way out, but if you're gonna be on a plane for 6, 7, 8+ hours, sometimes you just have to know that that's what's going to work best for your kid. Now, personally, we don't really let Haley use her tablet much at home, if at all. It's really something that maybe she'll just listen to an audiobook on, but it is not something that she sits and plays games with all the time. So that actually ends up helping us when we are on these really long haul flights. She can sit and play with her tablet as much as she wants. She can play games, she can watch movies, she can watch shows, she can listen to audiobooks. So we have found that tablets are really the best and honestly the easiest thing to pack when it comes to flying on planes. They don't take up a ton of space. It's not like you're carrying around a bunch of toys. And as long as you make sure it is charged ahead of time and make sure that you pre-download all of the movies and shows and games that your child might want to play ahead of time, knowing that you're not going to have internet, that's just the easiest entertainment we have found for our kids. So make the decision that is right for you, but regardless whether it's a tablet or something else, make sure you are prepared with a lot of things because they're kids and they are used to playing and being able to get up and move around, and when they can't get up and move around, they need something to do. So make sure you pack your entertainment. All right, my next tip is maybe not so much as a tip, just some things for you to think about, and that is whether or not you need to bring your car seat for your baby or toddler or small child. And it's again, this is something that really comes down to personal preference and what is best for you on your trip, where you're going, what you're doing. If you have the financial budget to purchase a seat for your small child under 2 years old, which we really tried to do, and a lot of airlines really fight you on trying to buy a ticket for your small child. But if you feel like that's something that you want to do, to have a space for your child, bring the car seat along. We were fortunate enough to do that on our trip to Paris a couple of years ago, and it was so nice to have a dedicated space for Delaney, especially for sleeping. She had a place that was just for her. We really enjoyed having that seat for her. We tried to buy her a seat on our flight to London, and it's a long story, but they said that children are not entitled to seats on their planes, and having a 23-month-old sit in my lap for 8 hours to and from London was not ideal. But some people, I think it's totally worth it, and all kids are different, so take your family situation into consideration and make the decision that is best for you. But you can check a car seat for free with your toddler. You get, I think, 2 baby items, again depending on the airline. Do your research and look at your actual tickets and what all is included. So you can check a car seat through if you're going to be renting a car and driving, or you're going to need it when you get to your destination. There is a lot to consider when it comes to car seats, and that's not a decision that I can make for you, but these are just some things that we think about before going into our trip of whether or not to bring it. Take this information as you will and make the decision that is best for you and your family. All right, my tip number 7 for flying with your baby and toddler, and this one is specific to babies, and that is preparing bottles. Everybody's feeding journey is different when it comes to babies. Whether if you are breastfeeding, then you should have a fairly easy time and just be able to feed on the plane. If you are using bottles, whether that is for pumped milk or formula, I can't really speak to pumped milk because I was not pumping at the time that I flew with Delaney, but from what I do know, you can bring pumped milk onto the plane. What I would recommend is if you need water for your formula, bring that water ahead of time. I'm pretty sure we just filled it up at the water bottle refilling stations in the airport, and then you can ask for a cup of hot water to put the bottle in to warm it up on the plane. From everything that I've read and heard online, I would not recommend getting hot water and using that to make your formula. I've heard that water on the planes is not the cleanest, so I would probably avoid that, but you can definitely use it to warm your bottle up, but just make sure you fill your bottles up ahead of time. Also, whether it's pumped milk or formula, definitely make sure that you bring more than you need for your allotted time on the plane. I know personally, Andrew and I have been stuck on an airplane for 4+ hours before we even took off, and if we had just rationed out just enough to get on the plane, we would have been in big trouble if we'd had a kid with us. So you never know what can happen on a plane, so just make sure you bring more than enough for the time you're going to be on the plane, and do a little bit of research on what you can and cannot bring through TSA, and just keep all of those things in mind as you are preparing for your trip. All right, tip number 8 for flying with your babies and toddlers is talking about diaper changes. Now, this is not the most easy part of the trip. I will throw some clips in here of Delaney and I trying to change her diaper on our most recent trip to Rome, And the changing tables in these bathrooms are very, very small. And you know, it's fine for a baby under a year who's much smaller. And unfortunately for me, Delaney is like 90th plus percentile for height. So trying to change her on a very small surface was very difficult. It is not impossible. And honestly, there were some wonderful flight attendants on our most recent flight home. We flew from Copenhagen back to the United States. I was asking them, oh, is there a bathroom with a changing table? And she's like, oh, come with me. This one is bigger than the other ones. So, you know, the flight attendants might be able to help you and give you a little bit of information about what might best fit your child. I would highly recommend changing diaper immediately before you get on the plane, so that it's not something you have to worry about for a really long time, especially if you're going on a shorter flight. If you can try to avoid it at all, that's probably a lot easier. But just be prepared that it is a very small space. It is not super easy, but as you can see from these video clips, Delaney and I just laughed through it. I mean, what else could we do? There was only that one place to do it, and we were going to be on the plane for 8 hours. So just be prepared that it might not be as easy as it is at home, but it can be done. It is possible. And just know that pretty much every airplane is going to have a place for you to change your baby. It might not be ideal, but you can make it through. And my final tip for flying with babies and kids is that kindness goes a long way. So you know you are about to get on an airplane with a bunch of other people as well as your small children. And like I've mentioned, that might feel like an inconvenience to some people. That doesn't mean it is, but I go into every flight with a big smile on my face, with excitement and enthusiasm for my children, and I am as kind as I can possibly be to every flight attendant on that plane, because I know if I'm gonna need help or need any assistance on the plane, they're gonna be the people that are gonna help me. And so I thank them profusely when I get on the plane. I have talked about this in several of my other videos. I also bring along $5 Starbucks gift cards with me as just a little thank you. Sometimes I will give them to the flight attendants as I walk onto the plane. Sometimes I just wait and give it to the person who is, you know, really directly helping us at our seats. Honestly, it just depends on the kids and how many I'm holding and what else I've got going on getting onto the plane as to when I give it to them. But the absolute gratitude I get from them when I take the time to thank them for all that they do to keep everybody on the plane safe, as well as help me and my children, you can tell that it's something that does not happen very often for flight attendants. And I think that's a shame, because they do a lot to serve and take care of everybody on the plane. And it's the least we can do is to be so super nice to them, especially if we have small kids. They might be giving you a seatbelt attachment and like the safety vests. Like there are things that they have to give you to go out of their way so that your child can be safe. And I just think that it's the least that you can do to be so incredibly kind to those people. And I have found that the nicer I am to the flight attendants on the plane, the nicer they are back to us. Now, not every time, but Haley has been given like little first class gift bags with eye masks and lotion and like all kinds of stuff in it. They'll bring them extra snacks. I mean, I feel like just the extra kindness towards the flight attendants has gone a long way, and they are not out to get you. They are not out to ruin your day on your flight. Obviously, every situation is unique, but I have found personally from all of my experience that nothing beats being kind to people, and I just go out of my way, even the people around me, to smile and say hello. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Have my kids encourage them to smile and say hi, and just try to be as little of an inconvenience to everyone around us and just to be truly positive. So I hope that you can bring that same kindness to your flights, and that positivity will just reflect on everybody on the flight, and you will all make it through. So that wraps it up for my 9 tips for flying with babies and kids. Now, again, this is just from my personal experiences, things that have helped us, things that have helped our kids. It can be really difficult if you were going for longer than a couple hours, but you are going to get somewhere that is new and unique. And I hope that these tips help you prepare yourself and prepare your kids, and that you have a very smooth travels to your next destination. So thank you so much for watching today. If you found this video helpful, we would really appreciate it if you could give it a like. And if you have any other thoughts or comments, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I would love to answer or hear any of your thoughts on flying. If you have any extra tips, please feel free to share them. And if you found this video helpful and you want to follow along for more of our family travel tips or our family travel adventures, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you can get notified when we post new videos. Thank you so much for watching today, and we wish you safe travels. Catch you in the next one.